welcome to Safari Classics TV. I want to bring in a couple of my partners in crime here, and there they are down on the bottom screen. Well, it's going to be professional hunter Brian Van Blerk of Brian Van Blerk Safaris. A long time operator. Now, Brian, I'm going to talk to you for a minute, then we'll introduce Phil, because Phil kind of demands a level of introduction that, I give to very few of our guests, but he's, you've hunted with him, you know how he is. But Brian, you've been in this industry a long time, and you are a mainstay in the Zimbabwe professional hunting world, and we've filmed a lot with you. Anybody that watches Tracks or Dark and Dangerous on Outdoor and Sportsman Channel, they recognize your face from our shows and others. But man, welcome to the show today, buddy. This is your first time on, and we've been looking forward to having you.
Well, Dave, thank you very much for having me on. It's a great opportunity. Thank you very much.
Brian, we're talking earlier about some of the areas you hunt, and your outfit, BVB, Brian Van Blerk Safaris, you've got an advantage, that I think it kind of puts you at an advantage over a lot of outfitters. You don't just have one particular area and that's the only place you hunt. Through your years and, of course, over the years, you develop a lot of relationships and, trust and partnerships with different landholders and communal areas and all that. You tell me a little bit about how BVB operates.
Yeah, Dave, I've been very fortunate and blessed with the amount of time I've been hunting from Tanzania, Mozambique, Zimbabwe. So I've got to meet some really good operators, and I've gone to see some really great areas. And you can't just hunt one area all your life. And so I've been very blessed and fortunate enough to get quotas and in these different areas in Zimbabwe. So I get a client or a good friend of mine will phone me up and say, for instance, I want to shoot an elephant sable, and to get sable in Zimbabwe these days, that's going to be the hard part. So you would say put the hunt together in Matetsi for a sable elephant hunt, and that's the way we do it. So I've got different areas in the southern part of Zimbabwe. I've got different areas in the northern part of Zimbabwe.
Well, like I said, we've been, we've had a camera over your shoulder, quite a few times over the years, and different areas, different game, but always with the same results, a really top-end safari. So now let's bring in Phil Massaro. Father Phil coming to us, and I forgave him for this years and years ago that, he calls upstate New York home. So, he's, let me say it in another way, he's my favorite New Yorker on the planet. But Phil, good to have you on, brother.
Great to be here, Dave. And Brian, great to see you, my friend.
I've seen you before. It's always a pleasure.
Phil, if you read outdoor publications, if you're interested in ballistics and firearms and shooting and stuff, then Phil is truly one of the most recognized guys in the business. You've got a lot of different titles. You're a freelance outdoor writer, and you wrote for nearly every major publication I can think of, especially those in the shooting and ammunition side of things. But you also do a lot of writing about your hunting, and a lot of that's African hunting because, like me, you're completely eat up with the dark continent. But Phil has a company called Massaro Ballistics Laboratory, and Phil, you are you design custom ammunition, load custom ammunition for really people all over the world.
Correct. So, if you have a niche cartridge that you can't find ammo for example, 318 Wesley Richards or something along those lines, we can take care of those problems. If you have a bullet you want to use in your 375 that isn't available commercially, we can help you with that too. Well,
a lot of people are going to recognize your byline. You are the editor-in-chief of Gun Digest. I mean, one of the, Gun Digest has been around since God was in high school, and, it is a...
1944.
You've created a couple of books. It was, one of your first ones on the ballistics was the Ballistic Handbook, right? That was the title of that?
Yep.
And that is just a in-depth study of all things ballistic. But a few years ago, you called me and shocked me when you said, I would like you to write a foreword or consider writing a foreword to a book project that I'm working on. And, and it's the first time I've, probably verbally turned something like that down. But I said, Phil, I'm the wrong guy. And you said, no, you're the right guy, because I'm writing a book, and I'm going to call it The Big Book of Ballistics. And the way Phil described that to me, he said, Dave, it is going to have all the nuts and bolts and the sometimes confusing world of ballistics and everything that includes different cartridge. I mean, everything. But I'm going to write it. And I teased Phil. I said, look, I know a bunch of gun writers, and some of them, it seemed like when they get out of bed every morning, their goal is to convince you that they know 10 times more than you do. And most of the times they probably do. But Phil said, I'm going to write a book that you will understand what you read, but you're going to also enjoy that. And there's going to be some laughs along the way. And this isn't my job here is not to prove to you that I know a lot more about it than you do, but to share information in a way that you'll enjoy it. And he said, just read the book and then let's talk. He sent me, his manuscript, and I said, you said it exactly right, Phil. I learned a lot, but I enjoyed it. And there were some laughs, and there was serious, there was funny, there were stories between first page and last page, and you really accomplished it. And I said, look, I'll take a swing at it, but if you'd like me to write a foreword, I'd be happy to do it. And that's my go-to book, Phil. You did a great job on that.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate that. It's a rather dry topic because the hunting is the more fun, but when the goal is you got to put the bullet where it needs to be. And when, things get weird or the shots get long, you need to understand, A, how your bullet's going to perform terminally, B, how the accuracy and whatnot is going to affect what shots you can and cannot take. To make that palatable is a challenge on my end. But as you and I have always had a laugh at us down at the SAM shooting course at FTW, those guys especially can take a novice and get them really shooting well, whether it's the dangerous game course or the long range course. So kudos to those guys. But you and I always had a grounded, down to earth approach to this whole thing. And I appreciate you writing that forward. It meant a lot to me.
For over 20 years, our team at Safari Classics has hunted and filmed across most of the African continent, with most of our travels taking us into really remote areas, even by third world standards. All those years in the bush have taught us that danger can come in many forms, and no one is immune to experiencing danger, including serious medical issues. No one thinks that a heart attack, a broken leg, stroke, snake bite, contact with dangerous game, or even political unrest will necessitate immediate evacuation and rescue. But believe me, each year these situations can and do happen on safari, every season. And that is exactly why no hunter should ever consider traveling to Africa or other international destinations without a travel, rescue, and medical evacuation insurance policy. And for years, our entire Safari Classics team has carried and counted on the peace of mind of our Ripcord Rescue Travel Protection Policy. Look, no one can predict the unexpected, but a Ripcord policy guarantees that you're prepared for it. Well, boys, ballistics and guns and buffalo, all those are going to be intertwined today because we are going to join you guys in the Chirisa area of Zimbabwe on a really cool multiple buffalo safari. So Brian, kind of tell me a little bit about the Chirisa area. I've actually never hunted in Chirisa.
Well, yeah, Chirisa is one of the pristine hunting areas in all of Zimbabwe with the beautiful scenery, the beautiful camp view and all that kind of stuff. The main things there in Chirisa is obviously the good buffalo population, and they used to have a very, very good lion population there as well. Leopard also very good, but overall it was a very, very, very good area. Obviously, in the past couple of years before our hunt, the area was left derelict, and obviously a lot of poaching went into it. But since then, it's come a long way, and it's one of the better big game hunting areas in Zimbabwe, where you can actually shoot big game and plains game, because a lot of these big game areas are basically big game only. So this is where you've got the variety and the scenery and the view and the camp. That's a really, really good area.
Well, Phil, your main objective on this hunt was buffalo, and that's an animal. People say, oh, well, I may shoot one leopard. If I ever get to shoot an elephant, I'll probably just shoot one or one lion. Once they shoot buffalo and hunt buffalo, they're gonna, if finances and time allow, they'll hunt them every time they get close to them.
I always said if God forbid someone told me I was terminal and had one hunt left, it'd be for a Cape buffalo. And this particular hunt, I knew Brian Van Blerk from watching a lot of your videos, Dave. Stuff when he was with Adam Clements in Tanzania. And, we met at the shows, and I could speak a little bit of Kiswahili, and Brian and I would share a beer. And we finally said, we got to do this. Let's make this hunt happen. So the stars kind of aligned. I had ordered a double rifle from Chris Sells at Heim in 470, and that was going to be done just in time for this season. And I said, Brian, let's put this on film, and let's take a buffalo with the double, as is proper and as we should do. So thankfully, Brian made this happen. And late September, early October, we headed over to Chirisa, and that was right between our birthdays, because as everyone knows, Brian is older than me by about 6 weeks. But you can see it. Nonetheless, we had a later season hunt, and boy, we had a good time. I have the 89B in 470 nitro,
okay,
which is probably the most popular double caliber because of the availability of ammunition. However, all the ammo for this hunt I hand loaded personally. So,
well, as Brian alluded to, Chirisa also has really good plains game hunting, and like most guys on safari, unless you're just super hot on the tracks of buffalo, you want to take advantage of plains game opportunities. So you brought kind of a special bolt gun. Tell me a little bit about that.
I had picked up horse trading years ago in my youth. I had a 1916, World War I 8x57 Mauser that the barrel had sat muzzle down in somebody's wet basement for decades, and it was kind of irreparable. So I used the action to build a 318 Wesley Richards. It's one of those turn of the century, a little bit after the first decade of the 20th century cartridges. 330 diameter bullet, 250 grains, roughly 2450 feet per second. So I also told Brian, I said, look, if we can get Albert, his head tracker, to carry the 318 while I carry the double, should plains game present itself, maybe, we could make this work.
But again, your primary goal on this is buffalo, and your primary tool is going to be your double rifle. So, very few guys are as passionate about shooting doubles as you are, Phil. And Christy said, I'm going to roll a little bit of footage of a couple of your other buffalo hunts. This is you getting busy with a 2-pipe.
Yep.
Into a big old herd.
Yep, that was in Kutada 11 with Poon Benzil.
Hold on, don't shoot. Hold on. Come. Go slowly. Come here.
There's not many people that I'd say like Phil, with the accuracy and everything he's got with his double to shoot buffalo, and some of the shots that I've given him.
Okay, hold on. Facing to the right. Yeah, but there's one straight behind him. I'll tell you. Okay, on the left, far left. Well done.
People always talking about charging, and they happen, and we certainly have filmed our share of them. You want to know how to keep a charge from happening? You do this.
Watch him.
I mean, this old bull's coming to his feet. He's going to give you a go, but you weren't waiting around to see how he wanted to die. You did exactly what every buffalo hunter ought to do. If that buffalo's still alive, you're shooting at him.
But if you let him
I told Poon, I said,
before you shoot
if you see air underneath him, I'm killing him. It just because my wife was with me on that one. I said invariably he's going to charge. He's going to charge her, and I'll never hear the end of it. But the minute I saw air, and that buffalo didn't read the script in Mozambique. He took a bunch of lead, and it took it like a boss. But that double tap at the end kind of put him down for good.
Well, let's make just one more quick diversion before we get into this hunt, since we're on buffalo. The Cape is not the only big bovine on the planet, and you and I both are very passionate about Australian buffalo. And
Yes, sir.
man, it's an animal that is made for a double rifle.
That was with Graham Williams, and we saw that bull. He'd been rolling in pink mud, and Graham says, we can get closer. I said, good, because it's a double, and I generally like to be within 50 yards. And we got closer and closer and closer and closer and closer, and I think we were within 20. And I don't know if it was Chris Sells waved his hat behind us, to get that bull to get up. But they're much bigger than Cape Buffalo. We estimated that bull to go 2,300 pounds.
Yeah.
And that 470, again, that's a different rifle than my own, but it's the same caliber. I like that 470 because those 500 grainers just kind of put a period at the end of the sentence.
Yeah, they do. And they are massive beasts. Like I said, the first time I walked up on one, I said, yeah, he will definitely outweigh the biggest Cape Buffalo I've ever seen. But, just another excuse for somebody that's thinking about buying a two-pipe. Besides Africa, there's other places open for business that you can go have a lot of fun with a double rifle. All right, boys, let's get into your hunt. Let's head back to Chirisa now. We talked about the reason to bring, two rifles, and, you guys came around the corner and one of those striped opportunities presented itself.
When the zebra came broadside, that was the first one that fell, and that Woodley bullet, that 250, just punched through both shoulders and exited. And a beautiful stallion. As a matter of fact, he's in my guitar room on the floor as a rug, so I see him every day.
Yeah, as I can remember, that really unique markings on the back. It's like,
yeah, he's just gorgeous. And every time I walk in that room, it always reminds me of you, buddy.
People that have not tackled zebra before, find out really quick a zebra not shot properly will give you a long day. They are an exceedingly tough creature. I mean, they can go a long way. They're very tenacious.
Yeah, the big thing with the zebra, and if you don't hit him with black and white stripes, you don't realize that they're into the surroundings, and a lot of times they shoot a little bit far back. Even with the beautiful little sergeant stripe on the shoulder, and with a far back shot, it's very, very difficult to get back onto him, especially if he stays in the herd.
Well, you did very well on that. Now, there was a unique opportunity that Brian afforded you, Phil. You had booked the two exportable trophy buffaloes on this hunt. He had arranged to have a non-trophy, non-exportable bull available if you would like to take it, and you jumped on that like a rat on a Cheeto, I believe.
Down. Good. Yeah.
I think it is always critical that on shows like this that reach so many people that we tell the different conservation stories and the imperative of safari hunting to the betterment of the people, the area, the game, all the benefits of hunting. And this is just one of them. Brian, kind of walk us through. Tell me what we're seeing here and why you're there.
Well, basically, this is one of the schools in the boundary, and their obvious source of protein is meat. So with Phil and Goldwater and the Ambroses, they decided to take this particular buffalo to the school, because obviously most of them are very malnourished and they're just some basic subsistence farmers. So they have to deal with a lot of animals destroying crops and actually hurting people. So to give back to the community is a fantastic thing, and that's what then we were able to do it.
I don't know what I've done. 12, 13 safaris across the southern and eastern part of the continent. I have never seen anything go to waste. And when I say I don't see anything go to waste, I mean nothing. Some of those trackers and their families and the local people eat things that I would never even consider edible. So protein is at a premium. Again, nothing goes to waste. And when we took that buffalo, they dried it for a couple of days into biltong, and we took it to, I think it was the Marurwa school. Goldwater Lakuta, who was one of the principals at Chirisa now, he said to me, "Look, can you go and help, come make a presentation to the students?" I said, "Sure, that's no problem at all." So we took an afternoon and we drove to the school. I didn't know, but it was such a big deal that the parents of all the students came that day. So I actually got a little nervous because everybody was standing there and completely grateful. And it felt great for me to present that kind of thing to these students who sometimes walk up to 2 miles each way to go to school and have nothing to eat all day. To your point where we take things for granted, oh, I don't eat this and I don't eat that. Those people would eat anything they can. It's just such a different scenario. And am I there to hunt? Yes, I'm there to hunt, and I make no bones about that. But just despite the negative connotations, nothing in Africa goes to waste. One little point, I don't know how many buffalo I've taken, 7 or 8, I think. I've left more buffalo in Africa in a non-export, type of scenario than I've taken home as a trophy.
Yep.
Because those opportunities are a little bit more affordable, but at the end of the day, the buffalo remains with the village or the council or the government or whatever the case may be. And I'm just there for the experience. I come home with a great photo and a journal full of happy memories.
Days are ticking off, and you haven't got on the right type of bull. You're looking for mature buffaloes, but again, you're out there in the bush one day, and another one of the great trophies of Africa presents himself here.
Yeah, it's the thing is, where we are very fortunate in Africa is you never know what's around the next corner. So we were very fortunate enough, and like I said, Chirisa is not only got big game, it's also got plains game, and this beautiful Kudu bull, which is 54 inches plus, and once again, Phil made a fantastic shot. That 380 did a massive penetration. And we've managed to harvest this beautiful bull. It's not about a lot of times when you find these Kudu bulls, they're obviously known as the grey ghost of Africa. They're in a lot of thicket, and they're grey. They've got the stripes. They blend in so well. And this was the only shot we had that was available to us. And Paul once again made a fantastic shot, almost like a Texas neck shot. And Kudu went probably 50 yards, and there we found it, lying as it was there. Great shooting, and like I said, you have to take the opportunity when you can.
He's sitting across the living room here on my wall. Another reminder of my friend Brian. But I gotta be brutally honest with you and the public. Brian and I had tracked buffalo all morning, and I was a little tired. My battery was flat, as they say, and I was sleeping in the front of the truck. And Brian's elbowing it, "Get out of the truck!" I'm like, "What did I do? I didn't fart. What did I do?" He goes, "Get out! Get out!" They saw a huge kudu. So I was sound asleep in the truck.
I was sleeping as well
while driving. So it was a very short stalk, but the only shot he gave us was that, like Brian said, that Texas heart shot. and you see the tail go up, and that Woodley bullet actually penetrated just above the anus, and they found it expanded against the breastbone. So that's a lot of kudu to penetrate.
I call that the reverse brain shot.
Exactly.
Yep.
And, honored to take that grand old bull. I mean, like I say, he sits in the living room next to my wife's sable in a place of honor.
The thing is, a lot of people, obviously, the first timers that come out to Africa and stuff like that, they're used to deer hunting and sitting in a blind waiting for the animal to come to you. And I've seen a lot of people hesitant to shoot at certain angles. They want it to be totally broadside. And sometimes you don't get that opportunity in Africa. And that's, like I say to a lot of people, especially if that's a priority animal that you booked the safari for, if you don't take that shot, you're putting back the safari 3 or 4 days. So if you've got the opportunity and you've got an open, clear shot, take the opportunity, and normally it works out well.
I was fortunate on this hunt. Brian and I are about the same size and height. So when he spread the sticks, it wasn't too much adjustment needed for me. But, to anybody going over, the 3-legged traditional safari stick is what everybody uses. And here in America, we've got bog pods and clamps and flying buttresses and all this other stuff that we can buy, which is great. But get yourself a good set of sticks and spend time in the backyard range with a 22. No recoil, just target acquisition, stick adjustment, situational, sight picture, things like that. So when Brian and I got out of the truck and that Kudu gave us the going away shot, A, I knew the bullet path was clear, so there wasn't any risk. And B, I knew I had a gun that could penetrate enough to definitely reach the vitals and sort the animal out quickly and humanely. It wasn't a marginal shot. I knew it was going to work. If it was obscured by brush, I wouldn't have taken it. But to Brian's point, you've got to be adaptable. You've got to be the guy who can say, all right, no matter what you present me with, I can work with the team. And I'm going to stress this point several times, especially with the upcoming buffalo at the end, that it's a team effort and all of us need to work together from my experience. I mean, Brian's in the entertainment business. He's there to entertain me. He's got a whole team and crew of trackers and cooks and chefs and laundry people to make sure I have a good time. I owe it to myself to be able to deliver when he asks me to. So a 22 or your deer rifle on sticks in the backyard at a short, it doesn't have to be a long range because most of this stuff is taken well under 100 yards.
Yeah, they do not carry a bench rest into the bush with you, do they?
No, not like you're hunting leopard.
Well, so, you can, like I said, you can tell Phil's very distracted by, other critters and stuff. And Brian, you ready to finally get him on some buffalo about at this point?
Yeah. So we had like Phil said early on, we had lots of opportunities.
Yeah.
They weren't old enough. They spooked. They winded us. So there's lots of different things that go into a hunt. So it's not all about shooting. It's about the memories.
That's right.
It's about crawling on your hands and knees, lizard crawling, burning your knees, thorns in your knees. It's the whole thing that builds up to the whole hunt, and that builds up memories.
Let me quickly set the scenario for you. And this is the kind of guy Brian Van Blerk is. We had a 7-day hunt, and the last day of the hunt was my birthday, my 47th birthday. So long story short, we had a wonderful party with a cake on this beautiful promontory of rock that it looked like the Lion King, looking over the Sangwa River. And we had to call the hunt because the wind wasn't working. We just couldn't get on a trophy bull, and that was that. And I said, Brian, it's okay. About 2 hours later, over a cocktail, he says, no. You don't leave till 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. We're going out again. My wife goes, honey, come on. I went, Brian, you're getting up in the morning. So that's where we were. We get up in the morning, and I said, this is never going to work. The winds are blah, blah. And sure as if he had it scripted, there's the whole herd, as Brian said, and we come up, and finally, and I still bear the scars because I wore shorts that whole safari. My little pasty white legs are still scarred. We get on that first thing, and this bull comes across at 80-some yards again, and Brian says, can you hit him? I said, well, we're going to try.
Take him.
Phil made a fantastic shot, kneeling down and with no sticks.
Bang, and down he went within 30, 40 yards, and that's when Brian looks at me and utters this famous sentence, "There's his brother." Well, Dave, when you're on camera, and Doug King is a hell of a cameraman, and you're making a TV show and God affords you the opportunity to take 2 buffalo with a double rifle, damn it, you do it.
Well,
and it was that second bull that I kind of went, oh, what have I just done?
the late great Jeff Broom, an old-time professional hunter, was a really dear friend to Tim, one of my partners. But Jeff had the saying that I know every professional hunter agrees with, and every client should adopt: is never judge a safari until the sun has set on its last day, because Africa can be like that. And I tell people, not every, I think as human beings, we all tend to think of the positive. The wind's always going to be right. Every stalk's going to be spot on. No baboons or bush buck are going to give you away and bark. And, but that's not the way hunting, or certainly not the way African hunting, works. You got the first bull down, and this is magnificence.
This is the follow-up, Dave. So what happened was we gave him one of the thick stuff, and he went out with the herd. And Brian says he's out there, and of course he's got the range-finding binocular. He goes, he's 100. What was it, Brian? 184 yards. I said, hold my beer.
Yeah.
He says,
Yeah.
you hit him.
Well,
I
like
said,
I
I
said,
was aiming for it.
The shot that Phil took at this buffalo with a double was one of the best shots I've ever seen in my hunting career, with a double open-sided rifle.
I mean, Brian, that really, I'm going to say right now, that's about as far as I've ever seen anybody accurately. And you're not shooting with an RMR. I know you're like me; you're a fan of the Trijicon RMR, but you just went straight, straight sights on this. And Brian,
I could see back there.
Brian, what was going through your mind right now when he's about to take a wind at this thing?
Well, do you know what? The age-old saying is, as long as there's lead in the air, there's hope. And this was like we were saying, this is the last minute, the last second of the safari. We had to basically we left the buffalo in the riverbed, and the guys came and recovered it, because we had to get Phil back to the camp so we could get him on the road and fly him out. So yeah, it's just one of these things. You're like, hey, if he goes into the brush there, I don't know how much time we got left. I had to drive Phil out anyway. So yeah, it's one of those things. You had to do it, and he came through with the A+.
Thank you, buddy.
That's a pretty nice birthday present delivery.
Yeah, I would say. Now, here's the funny thing, Dave. Let's fast forward a few years. I book a hunt. Brian was hunting with my buddy Mike, but I was hunting with Tanya Blake for a leopard in Chirisa. I ended up shooting my tom leopard within 100 yards of where that buffalo died, in the middle of that sand river. So we named that Massaro Beach. That's that little sandy spot in the Sangre River is Massaro Beach.
That sounds like a fitting. I mean, that is. The whole hunt, was successful from front to back, and, knowing both of you, you had fun along the way. And at the end of the day,
right there.
We spent
Not
a
to
lot
stop
of
you, but that's the whole thing. It doesn't matter how much that buffalo scored. It doesn't matter, the width, the bosses, whatever. Brian is somebody I consider a brother. We've had more fun at the shows, drinking and getting crazy, and in camp and strumming guitars and, whacking back disgusting Stroh's rum and all this other stuff. At the end of the day, when I'm passed on and the kids aren't going to be measured, oh, well, Dad only shot a 37-inch buffalo. No, Dad had one hell of a time with a good friend in Zimbabwe.
Yeah. Well,
amen, brother.
It was obvious. And again, that's a lesson for everybody. You never give up. You keep grinding. If you have an extended hunting career, and that could include Africa, whitetail, ibex, whatever, when you're an old guy and you look back on your career, how many last day animals in your trophy room did you collect? That number will be considerable.
That safari sits, if not at the top, near the top of the list of my experiences.
Us as PHs, we take a lot for granted, and you know what? For a guy that's come here 2 or 3 times, we're doing 180 to 220 days a year, and we don't actually take the time and absorb it from a client's perspective, which is sometimes a bad thing on our part. We're just too busy trying to please the guy and to say, hey, we need to get this done, and we don't actually soak in the stuff and the views and everything that we should do as a PH, and give the client even a better safari, if you know what I'm saying. When you've got a guy that really he really wants to be there, he's got a passion for the hunting, it's a wonderful thing.
You guys made one of those memories today, and I am very grateful for you both taking the time out of your day and sharing the adventure.
Been my absolute thing, great seeing you guys.
Well, I was telling Brian a minute ago, on our Safari Classics TV app. So I would tell anybody that's enjoying the show today, if you like this, go to safariclassicstv.com, our webpage, and check out the Safari Classics TV app. I mean, what you're seeing here is part of what you'll see, but there is so much more. For so many people tell us, I never got to watch Tracks Across Africa or Dark and Dangerous. We didn't have that cable package or the Outdoor Channel or Sportsman. We've got 300 episodes, and we're always adding it to it. We're adding special features, like we've got a deal, Phil, called the PH Perspective that we're going to make Brian a part of, and it's getting with some of the top professional hunters in Africa and, hitting them with questions that I think people will find their answers interesting in, and those questions are kind of limitless.
You see the bull there? Shoot again, shoot.
As a professional hunter, what is the single most important piece of advice you would like to give a first-time safari client who has just booked a safari with you?
Yeah, that's a complex question, because there's so much that a first-time hunter needs to know and prepare for. So if you're looking for one answer only, I would say practice their shooting.
Do your reading, read all the old classics. Understand better what you're getting into. Study them. Study the calibers. The books on hunting will teach you so much. You make the right choice of rifles, optics, bullets, and put your mind in the correct frame of mind. Come with an open mind, open for adventure. Understand the ethics of the hunt. Do your homework. Do as much reading as you can.
I always tell them to bring a rifle that they can shoot well. I see so many times, clients used to shooting a 375 and then they buy a 416 and they've shot it once or twice on the range and then they bring them. It just doesn't work. So shot placement with the 375 will handle any dangerous game that you have.
Remember, what you're seeing here is only a small part. The entire series and all the questions with all the different PHs only lives on the Safari Classics TV app. Let me tell you, boys, very appreciated for our whole team, all of our viewers, for you guys making time out of your day and being with us.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to doing it again. Brian, be well, my brother.
Thank God. You too, man.
Cheers.
Don't forget to carry on playing the guitar.
I won't.
All right, until then, for Brian and for Mr. Phil, we'll see you this time next time on Safari Classics TV.